All right, in this video, I'm going to show you how to make a really great selection using a really old tool from Photoshop called the Quick Mask. Let's go check it out. Here we go. Before I get started with selecting out one of these flowers using the Quick Mask, I want to do a review of how the Quick Mask works. And I'm just going to make a blank document on my screen. And I'm just going to take my marquee tool and create a selection. So inside the selection is what's selected, meaning what's editable, and outside is what is not editable. If I go to my Quick Mask, which you can find at the bottom of your toolbar, or you can type Q on your keyboard, you're now going to see that what was selected now appears as white or essentially transparent, and what was not selected or masked out appears as a transparent red. Now what the Quick Mask allows you to do is by taking the brush tool or the eraser tool, you can either paint in using black to add to your mask, or if you use your eraser tool or you swap your color, so white is your foreground color, you can now create your selection by painting. So white will make the selection and black will make the mask. Now you're also going to know that you're in the Quick Mask because on the tab at the top of your screen, it's going to have the file's name, and in parentheses it's going to say Quick Mask. To get out of Quick Mask, you can either click on this icon here or type Q on your keyboard. And now you can see that you've updated the selection using a brush and an eraser. So it's a really great tool for doing some refined editing that might either be difficult using the Select and Mask tool or just quick and convenient. So I'm going to just get out of this. I don't need to save it. And I'm back into this image of these tulips. So Photoshop has come a very long way. There are some great new tools for quickly creating selections. And they include Select Subject. But as I like to say, Photoshop doesn't know where this image came from. It might be able to identify that it's flowers. But it doesn't know exactly the 3D model of these flowers, so it can't extract just one of these flowers. And when you use something like Select Subject, it's going to make its best guess as to what it should select. Now what I want to do is I want to select just this one flower. So if I click on Select Subject, it's going to analyze the image, and it's going to make its best guess as to what should be included in that selection. And as you will see, it's now included quite a bit of information in this, including the flower that we want and the stem, but also some of the flowers that come that are around it, and even something at the bottom here. I'm not exactly sure why. But this is where a tool like the Quick Mask comes in really handy. If I type Q on my keyboard, or again if I click on this icon here, now I can see the selection as a red overlay or transparent where it's actually selected. So this means now that I can edit this mask using my brush tools. Now I'm going to be using a brush which I've created in a previous video called my Photoshop editing brush, and there's a link to it in the description, and I think there's a link to it at the top. And what I'm going to do is use this to quickly paint out parts that I don't want to be part of my selection. What's important to recognize is that black needs to be your foreground color, so just type D on your keyboard in order to do that. And now I can quickly paint this out. Now I've made my brush fairly large, and you can make it larger by using your right bracket, and you can paint out some of these areas that you don't need. And I'm just painting quickly, going through and looking for some of these spots that appeared, including down here. Now I don't want to get too close to the edge because I want to zoom in and get a little bit tighter with this. So I'm going to zoom in on this using Command or Control plus to zoom in, and now we can see the Select subject did a really good job of making this selection, but there are some little pieces and parts that are still left out and some things that still need to be cleaned up. Now I'm going to make my brush significantly smaller, and I'm going to go to the window menu and click on brush settings, and I'm going to just change my spacing for this brush down to 1% if that's not already the case for you. So now what I can do, now that I have this editing brush and I'm zoomed in really close and I've made my brush smaller by using my left bracket key, I can now begin to clean this up. And I'm just going to work my way around the edge. And a really great tip, and again, this is like an ancient tip for Photoshop, that if you want to draw essentially a straight line, you can click one part of your screen, hold the shift key down and click on another part, and Photoshop will draw a line. Essentially just repeat that brush in between each of those clicks. Now what I can also do is I can rotate this brush by using shift and my left arrow or shift and my right arrow, depending on which direction I want to go. So if I need to work my way down the stem and I want to use the super pointy part of my editing brush, I can rotate the brush that way. And if I want to get rid of this red that's on the inside of the stem of this tulip, I can either use my eraser tool, or if I want to stay using my editing brush, I can just type X on my keyboard and it's going to make white my foreground color. And now I can essentially just erase this mask from places that I don't want it to be. And so this way I can just go through my image, swapping the colors using X on my keyboard, rotating my brush as I need to, scaling it up or down, and refining this edge. So I'm just going to work my way through this edge. I'll speed things up a little bit so you don't get super bored watching me. So take your time doing this. There's not a rush. The slower you go, the more you'll be able to pick up as you work your way around your object. One thing to keep in mind as you're using the quick mask is that you're not destroying the image at all. So if you need to, say, overshoot the boundary a little bit, that's fine, because that way you can come back with the eraser or swap your colors to white and clean that up on the inside. So there's all sorts of strategies to make this work really well. Something I like to do when I think I'm finished building my selection, to ensure that my selection is only for the thing that I want to be selected, is I'm going to take my magic wand tool and I'm going to use that to create the final selection. Now what I like about this quick mask tool is, and the magic wand tool, is that these are really old tools, so they'll work with any version of Photoshop that you have. So I'm going to take the magic wand tool. I want to ensure that this is set to contiguous. And it doesn't matter whether it's a point sample or an averaged sample. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to select just on the inside of the selection. Now I'm going to go over to my channels panel. I'm going to take a look and see that quick mask is my active channel. And in the quick mask you can see this little blob of white. Let me make this bigger so we can all see it here. So this blob of white represents the tulip and the black represents the mask, and you can actually see a couple little dots of things that were not part of the selection. And this is what this technique is helping with. Because this is the active channel, when I click inside of that, all it's doing is using that information that's white to create the selection. And now what I'll do is I'll go to the select menu and inverse my selection, meaning that instead of the tulip being the part that's selected, it's the entire background. And now to ensure that the background is filled in with solid black, I'll go to the edit menu, fill, and I'm going to fill this in with black. And now it's taken care of anything that I might have missed. And now I'm going to deselect my selection. So go to the select menu and deselect. Command or Control D will do that as well. To get out of the quick mask, you can type Q on your keyboard. And now you have this highly refined selection. Now you can certainly use select and mask to do some final finessing edits to this, but since this video is focused just on quick mask, we're going to leave it at this. Now with this you can make a new layer via copy. So go to the layer menu, new layer via copy, or Command or Control J will do that as well. And you can get that flower on its own layer. Or you can copy just the flower. So with this selected, go to the edit menu and copy, Command or Control C. Go to the file menu and new, and you can create a new document. The size is going to be determined by the selection that you just made. And I can paste that in, and now I have a flower on my own layer. And if I want that to be something transparent, I can delete the background. I can certainly export this if I want as a PNG, and that will be the file that I can use with a transparent background. Going back to this flower for a moment, if I want to save this selection to come back and use it again and again, or just to ensure that it's saved as part of this file, go to the select menu and save your selection, and you can name it. I'm just going to call it Tulip, and click on OK. And now in the channels panel you will see that there is an alpha channel called Tulip. And to save this file, you'll have to now save it in the Photoshop format because it does have that alpha channel with it. So File, Save, it's going to prompt you to save it as a Photoshop file, and you'll call it Tulips, and you'll click on Save. All right, that's it. Let me know what you think. See you in the next video.